Are you kidding me? That's dope.
How did they put it up there? Let's grab a latte.
I wonder what is in that bag.
This was made with AI completely. You only need 2 images for that, and I will give you this workflow for free. But first, let me walk you through it. How does it work? Now, this is how the workflow looks like. And you can really see it's just a handful of nodes. I have built it in Figma view because it has all the nodes I need for that. But for you, it still requires just 2 images. Where it happens and what is installed somewhere above the ground with spider webs. First, I will show you a clean process of generation, and then I will show you a couple more examples how you can tweak it or what you can use to make it look even better. First, we need to transform this image into 3D model. Now you might be asking, how do I do that? Because I don't know 3D. You don't have to. There is a node for that. You just right click, type 3D, and here are a bunch of 3D nodes you could use, but I use Rodin V2 for that most of the time. Only thing you do, you will plug the image into a node, and here is also text description, which isn't necessary. I only use it when the object might be confusing and model might drift away a bit, so I would maybe help it with motorbike. But here it's kind of obvious. Now what do? Just hit run model and wait. In a moment you will have a low resolution 3D model, but that's totally okay. We don't need high resolution. That piece would only act as a control net, a control piece for the model to know where we put our bike. Now we have our 3D model ready, and it really took 1 or 2 minutes. Not that long. We can zoom in and you can see you can rotate it, can come closer. And it's kind of cool. It's not high resolution, but we don't need it. Now, next step would be to layer them together so the model knows where do you want the product to be hanged. And for that, we will use Compositor, which is something like Photoshop. It has layers and you can create your composition here. For that, we have our environment image, which we will plug into background. And then we will use 3D node, but only image output in here. And you can see that our bike is already in the scene. If I put those next to each other, you can see it reacts. So think about how would you want the bike to be hanging, something like this. And for certain tweaks, I go to edit. And since this is its own layer, you can play with it, make it bigger, rotate it a little bit, or maybe a bit smaller, something like that. And I will position it somewhere here. Now this acts as a reference image for GPT image 2, which does the best job with this exact task. And I will only plug the output into image. And I will also help it with the reference image of the product. So it doesn't need to reinvent the details from scratch, but it can take it from the original image. And there is a prompt already plugged in, which will do the job for you. You don't need to change anything there. Rather, do not change anything because it simply works. I've prepared it for you. So only thing you do is to pick how big you want it. I always go high. Resolution, I'm going to keep it with auto. And now let's hit run model. While this is being generated, sometimes you might get blocked with GPT image 2 if you are using a well-known brand or something like that. I don't know exactly why, but if you would just rerun it a couple of times or you would change the angle in the compositor, most of the time it will fix it. But this is not the problem of the workflow. Now we only need to wait while our main art image will be generated. And while we are waiting, I would like to briefly mention that this workflow is free. You will find the link in the description. But there is also a link to my community where I go deeper into AI related stuff, workflows, filmmaking, and also a business and management of being AI creative, because it's not just fun, it can make your livings. If that is something that might interest you, there is a community. Generation is done. Let's zoom in. And you can see that this looks cool. I'm quite happy with it, but it's still not a video. Here we will use seedance, but reference, not the first frame. Because if you would go right, seedance 2, you can see that with this node, you would plug this image as a first frame. So you would limit the model to start at this exact view. I don't like that, because if you would use this as reference, it understands the image, it learns what is where, and it will build the better, more natural looking scene for you. At least I do that. Now we only need to plug our generated image into Seedance as a reference. And again, ready-made prompt for you to plug into Seedance so it knows what to do. Only thing here you can do is this node, which is plugged in as a reference, and it gives you option to type in what the filmer should be speaking, maybe. Let's try it. Do you see that bike up there? That is so scary but cool. That's it. And you can see this line got updated here in master prompt. You could do some tweaks here, but I will show it to you in other examples. Now with it, you will hit Seedance. You can also pick whether you want 4K, 1080p. I think 1080p would be just fine for that. And let's maybe use it for 7 or 8 seconds. Let's use 8. Here it's quite important to hit correct length of video, because we are using also spoken line. And sometimes if you would type in maybe 2 sentences and you would pick 6 seconds, the line won't be delivered in full. It would be cut because there is not enough time to actually squeeze this in. So I think like 8 seconds for something like this is just enough with a big buffer. Now, I think for this one, I will go 16:9, which is landscape. However, our reference image is more or less portrait mode. But again, it's reference, it's not the first frame. So here, with this setup, I can only hit run. You will be notified that this belongs to those expensive models, but let's hit run anyway. And you just need to wait. And now, maybe after 5 minutes, video is done. Let's zoom in and take a look.
Do you see that bike up there? That is so scary, but cool.
It works. You see. Now, let me show you other cool examples. In this one, I was using video input as my scene, but I used extract video frame node to take out a single frame, which was used as a reference. You can do it. And again, there is a 3D car, which I layered into my scene and ended up with this.
Wow, look at this. So cool.
Another example here was a cappuccino in French city, which is exactly Paris, and this is exact street. Here I really used screen grab from Google Maps. So you would go there, you would turn on street view look, and just find the angle you like, screen grab it, and use it. it's this case. With it, it gave me this.
How did they put it up there? Let's grab a latte.
Quite cool. Now, below it, I repeated it one more time, but here I wanted the video to be a bit more engaging, so there is someone holding a phone, and here you can see how does it look.
How did they put it up there? Let's grab a latte.
So how I did that? If you zoom in, I only tweaked this part of the prompt where I write the filmer is first shooting his face to camera, reacts naturally, but really excited with the spoken line, then there's a line, and pointing on the installation behind him. So I covered it with words in this main prompt. First one is kind of general for first person view from the street, but if you would like this to be more or less like a selfie, just tweak it there. It's not that difficult. Now, below it, here you can see I used also AI generated image because this is not a real scene. This is AI generated New Yorkish, something like that. And again, it looks like this.
No way! Was Spider-Man here or what?
Or with a bit of tweak, the same scene because it was plugged in as a reference.
Are you kidding me? That's dope. I am taking a picture.
Next, below it, I was using metro and a train. Same story here. You can see it's train trapped in metro tunnel. But here, if you listen closely, a guy is whispering.
Wow, that is actually so scary. Scary. What happened here?
And that's a little direction you need to do on your own because I mentioned it here. A bit whispery, but really excited with the spoken line. That's it. And the last one where I really think that it needed that text description that it's a backpack. Otherwise, it might maybe confuse it because it's too detailed. However, it did it quite well. So in a train, there is a backpack. Here, the backpack is captured with spider web. And here is the video.
I wonder what is in that bag.
So before I end, use this workflow, share it, let me know how it worked. Hopefully you would enjoy it. If it is the case, let me know in the comments and consider community. Stay safe. See you with the next video.